Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. According to a report by DW, the European Union is set to ban the harmful industrial chemical bisphenol A, BPA, and other bisphenols from food packaging starting in July 2026. BPA is commonly used in manufacturing hard plastics and epoxy resins, which coat the interiors of food and beverage cans to prevent rusting. However, the chemical can leach into food, posing significant health risks to consumers. Extensive scientific evidence indicates that BPA disrupts the human endocrine system, potentially impairing fertility, altering developmental stages, and increasing the risks of cancers, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and obesity. While the EU ban represents the strictest global regulation to date, certain transition periods will apply. Specifically, a grace period until 2028 is granted for applications with no current safe alternatives, such as canned packaging for highly acidic foods. To minimize exposure in the interim, experts suggest using glass or stainless steel utensils, eating fresh foods instead of canned goods, and avoiding heating foods in plastic containers. According to a report by Engadget, Norway is set to impose strict restrictions on the use of generative artificial intelligence in schools starting in late August. Under the new policy, elementary school students from 1st through 7th grade, covering ages 6 to 13, will be banned from using generative AI tools. Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store explained that AI risks allowing children to bypass essential learning stages, and emphasized that schools must focus on fundamental skills such as reading, writing, and mathematics. For older students, restrictions will be slightly relaxed. Teenagers aged 14 to 16 will be permitted to use generative AI only under a teacher's supervision, while those aged 17 and older will be encouraged to use it independently and responsibly. This policy follows Norway's successful classroom ban on smartphones and tablets, which resulted in improved grades, decreased bullying, and better mental health outcomes. Norway is also planning to introduce legislation for a social media ban for children under 16 by the end of the year, highlighting a growing global trend of governments taking active measures to regulate minor interactions with technology. According to UPI, one of the two active Boeing 747-200 aircraft serving as Air Force One has been officially retired from the U.S. presidential fleet. The aircraft, designated as VC-25A with tail number 29,000, completed its final flight this week after carrying President Donald Trump back to the United States from his trip to Europe. Having entered service in 1990 under President George H.W. Bush, the plane has faithfully served American presidents for 35 years. To replace the aging fleet, 3 Boeing 747-800 aircraft are currently being prepared to join the active executive airlift. This new lineup includes a luxury jet donated to the U.S. government by Qatar. The new presidential aircraft will also feature President Trump's preferred livery scheme, consisting of red, white, gold, and dark blue. This color scheme was initially proposed during Trump's first term, later canceled by President Joe Biden, and reinstated following Trump's re-election. U.S. Air Force officials stated that the newly added bridge aircraft will help ensure the seamless execution of the presidential transport mission. CBS News reports on the miraculous survival of 57-year-old Nepali mountaineer Dawa Sherpa, who spent an entire week trapped alone on Mount Everest. After descending from high altitude, Sherpa ran out of oxygen and became separated from his climbing group. While attempting to descend further alone, he fell into a treacherous 25-foot deep crevasse in the Khumbu icefall, fracturing his thigh bone. Sherpa spent 2 agonizing nights trapped inside the ice crack with no communication, surviving solely on biscuits, chocolate, and ice chunks. He had nearly given up hope of rescue, particularly after a search helicopter passed overhead without spotting him. However, his fortune changed when an avalanche struck. Instead of burying him, the cascading snow filled the crevasse, creating a ramp that allowed him to crawl out using his crampons. Dragging his injured leg, Sherpa managed to climb down near base camp, where he was rescued on June 4. He was airlifted to Kathmandu and treated for frostbite, severe dehydration, and a broken thigh. The incident has raised celebratory responses alongside criticisms of the delayed rescue efforts, prompting a government investigation. According to UPI, Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa has signed a decree authorizing the deployment of foreign military personnel in the country to assist domestic security forces in operations against organized crime. Under Executive Decree 424, the deployed foreign troops will be granted immunity in accordance with existing international agreements, such as the Status of Forces Agreement signed between Ecuador and the United States. The decree reaffirms the existence of an internal armed conflict against 22 designated criminal and narco-terrorist organizations. President Noboa announced the measure following a meeting in Washington with U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to discuss security cooperation. While the decree does not specify when deployments will begin or which other countries might participate, it explicitly leverages the U.S. bilateral framework. Additionally, the decree urges the National Assembly to grant amnesty to those acting in defense of the state during these operations. Ecuador is currently grappling with a severe security crisis fueled by international drug trafficking, extortion, and homicides. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.